Welcome to the Bamboo Podcast, where we interview a range of guests about self-care, infant care, and relationships during the perinatal period. We are your hosts, Leah
and Kaila. In this episode, we chat to midwife and lactation consultant Georgina Bosworth, also known as Mumma G, about breastfeeding. Georgina has 4 decades of experience as a midwife and shares what to expect accessing donor milk in Australia, how long is ideal to breastfeed for, and when it's time to seek help if you're struggling. If you enjoyed this episode, listen to the episode linked below where we chat to Georgina about choosing a midwife, preparing for labour, and different birth options and labour positions. We hope you enjoy.
So thinking past that birth process, how can women prepare themselves for breastfeeding?
You don't actually have to do very much, but I think your mindset is really important. And when I work with a family to work towards breastfeeding, or I'm running a breastfeeding workshop, I will always reflect on who you are as a woman, the fact that you were born female, that you went through adolescence, you grew some breasts when you didn't have them before, you got your first period, you started ovulating, at some point one of your eggs met a sperm, you conceived, you're pregnant. Gosh, isn't that a huge investment and a big yes in terms of your capacity to do what your body has been designed to do? So it's a natural onflow that your body is built to nurture your babies and grow your babies in utero and then at the breast once they've been born. If all of those other things have all happened, then surely that other bit will happen too with the right support. When women talk with me about breastfeeding, they say, oh, yeah, I'll breastfeed if I can. And I work on that if I can, because I know you can with the right support. There's 2 single biggest determinants of your success with your breastfeeding journey are the statistically from research are the support of your partner and the support of your mother, if you have a mother. And if those 2 people are on board with you, then you're set up for success. If your mother doesn't know how to support you in breastfeeding, or your partner's equivocal, when your partner sees you struggling, he may say, how can I help you continue on your breastfeeding journey? Or he might say, this is really hard and I think it might be best if we went to the shop and bought some other thing. And if your mum didn't breastfeed her babies, she may not have the confidence or the skill set to support you through the difficulties of breastfeeding, but is actually able to be very helpful in some other choice. So important to surround you with support, do lots of reading, do a breastfeeding workshop, do some stuff online, but you don't need a lot of stuff. You don't need to prepare unnecessarily. However, I do teach women to express some colostrum by hand towards the end of their pregnancy. It can be useful to have if you have any health conditions yourselves or you're anticipating an unwell baby. If you have gestational diabetes, it would not be a bad idea to have some colostrum on hand, because your caregivers will probably want to be monitoring your baby's blood glucose levels after birth. And if they're low, it's great to have some colostrum on hand, so that could displace any suggestions from other people to give your baby some other fluid to raise your baby's blood.
And when would that usually occur, and how would you go about that?
From about 36, 37 weeks, depending on the timing of your birth. And it's a technique that you learn, you express colostrum by hand, and there are lots of different ways of learning that. So if you Google expressing colostrum antenatally, you'll be able to find your way to lots and lots of resources and YouTubes. And if you care to find yourself on my website, I actually have a link there of me explaining how to, and some really good video of how to actually do it, and about storing colostrum and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
fantastic. I was talking to my partner about this, and he was very curious about the overnight feeding and whether it's a good thing to supplement with formula so that the partner can help support, if mums are having trouble expressing. Is that something, or should they, should that be the first sort of port of call? I would assume that you try to express, have that ready, and then your partner can feed the infant while you get some sleep.
I'm so glad you asked that question, because that's often one of the big derailers of a successful breastfeeding journey. So the scenario that you've just described is often the woman's first experience of mastitis as a result. So remember earlier I said you often get to like week 3 and you both hit that horrible fatigue wall. Your partner cares for you. He sees how tired you are. He says, okay, how about you sleep tonight from midnight to 6 a.m. and I'll give our baby a bottle of something, express breast milk, some other thing, at 3 a.m. and you're going to get 6 hours sleep. Problem is your baby's going to get fed. So your baby's needs are going to be met, but your body would be expecting to feed a baby somewhere around 3 a.m. So while you're in a deep, deep slumber, your breasts are getting firmer and firmer and firmer and firmer. And eventually, probably about 4:30 a.m., your breasts are going to wake you up because they're so over firm and quite painful. And you're risking getting mastitis and blocked ducts as a result. So this is often, it's really important that you've asked this question and that your listeners are hearing the answer to this. This is not a good way for your partner to support you. For a normal breastfeeding journey, there should be no reason for formula to be involved in your breastfeeding journey, and maybe even not feeding your baby express breast milk in some other way. The World Health Organization says that infant feeding should be in this order: directly breastfeeding from the mother's own breasts. If the baby isn't able to feed from the mum directly, or the mum can't feed the baby because one of them is unwell, then the woman's own breast milk fed to her baby in some other way. The third option, you might be surprised to hear, is recommended to be donor milk. So
that's just about
milk,
to ask that.
Yeah, human milk for human babies. And then the fourth option, way down, fourth, is artificial formula, which was designed to be an emergency food. You know, that's what the World Health Organization says. And I had a woman her baby actually needed some care in hospital recently, and she went to the health service she was having feeding challenges herself, and her baby was potentially unwell. So she went to the hospital with some donor milk, and she said, I know the World Health Organization says that these are the best ways to meet my baby's needs, and I'm insisting that my baby have the option of being given express breast milk from another woman, and the health facility was supportive of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
How easily accessible is donor milk in Australia?
So there's a lot of informal breast milk sharing going on, and that's perfectly legitimate. Happens a lot. There are social media groups where local people will say, I've got some breast milk, I've got an oversupply, I've got this much stashed in my freezer, if you have a need, I'm happy to share. And it's informal and it's not screened, and there's a degree of trust involved that the woman providing the breast milk is healthy and well and doesn't have any communicable diseases. So there's a lot of that goes on. So there's human milk for human babies, there's eats on feeds, there's lots of those informal milk sharing social media sites. And then just in the community, you know, if I know of a woman who's struggling, I know a bunch of women who were close to birthing their babies, who breastfed their babies prior, they've got plenty of colostrum, they'll share colostrum. Women who have the other problem, they've got an oversupply and they've got 5 litres in 20 bags in their freezer, and their husband's complaining there's no room in the freezer for actual food. So, you know, lots of informal milk sharing going on, and their babies get human milk. But however, the Red Cross in this country manages the managed provision of donor milk. So in hospital settings, I believe if your baby is of 34 weeks gestation or less, so preterm, your baby should have access to donor milk that's been processed by the Red Cross. So it's been pasteurised and screened and deemed safe. And because we know that babies that are of that prematurity actually do significantly less well if they're exposed to artificial formula. Babies are at risk of getting a condition called necrotizing enterocolitis, NEC for short, and basically portions of their gut die as a result of exposure to feeding fluids that aren't best for them. And conversely, babies do so much better when they get access to safe human milk.
It's so interesting, isn't it? I find it very fascinating. And I feel like I might know the answer to this one, but I do think it's important to ask that before you have a child and before you go down your journey of breastfeeding, is there any signs that you might have a little bit more difficulty than other people? And I was thinking more like the size of your breasts or what your nipples look like, or if you've got inverted nipples or things like that. Like, is there anything that you'd suggest people to be aware of?
I think perhaps just having a positive mindset, I can do, rather than where are the problems. However, I can't tell by looking at you which one of you is going to be successful at breastfeeding. So the size of your breasts is not going to be an indication of the amount of glandular tissue that you have. And that's a whole other conversation. Our breasts are an organ that continue to develop throughout the lifespan. So constantly changing and increasing the potential to feed our babies. babies breastfeed, they don't nipple feed. So if you have flat nipples or inverted nipples, that's not necessarily at all a barrier to successfully breastfeeding, but you may need more support. Okay. Yeah, if you've got some health conditions, so if you've got pre-existing diabetes or you developed diabetes in pregnancy, perhaps if you've got PCOS, you may have some difficulty. Having said that, half women who have PCOS breastfeed very successfully. It's really around what support you have, and then your caregiver being alert to the possible impacts of chronic or otherwise health conditions that may impact your breastfeeding success, and then engaging with a lactation consultant while still pregnant so you can anticipate and work together. Now, thyroid disorder is another reason. Previous breast surgery, so a reduction or an augmentation of your previous breast surgery. Yeah.
And what should the first, say, few days of breastfeeding look like?
Hopefully, as soon as your baby's born, it's immediate and uninterrupted skin to skin. That's where the magic happens. If you can get that, and then you can do this wonderful thing called baby-led attachment, where your baby actually is supported to follow their sequential inbuilt reflexes to choose which breast they'd like to feed from and actually make their way to the breast of their choice, latch and feed all on their own. Our babies, we're mammals, our babies are mammals, and they're actually biologically imprinted to do that if we just don't interfere with that process. So the first feed is very, very important. If you're not able to do that immediate and uninterrupted skin to skin and do that first baby-led attachment, it's not the end of the world. Those instincts remain for many months afterwards. So you just replicate that when you get an opportunity, and just being close and available to your baby. Yeah.
And we've learned a bit about all the other benefits of that skin-to-skin contact. So that skin biome that gets transferred, obviously bonding, attachment, so crucial in so many ways. Yeah. And when might it be time to get some additional support? So what are some cues that it's not working as well? My baby's potentially not getting any milk, or it's not working.
Well, it's hurting was my one.
Yes.
It was hurting. It was my third baby, so I knew straight away. I was like, shouldn't feel like this.
Yeah, definitely ask for help early before your problems become complex. Complex problems take longer to resolve to get you back to happy breastfeeding journey. So the sooner the better. A latch should be comfortable. If it's not comfortable, it's not right. It might be mildly uncomfortable with the first few sucks, but after that, it should not continue to be uncomfortable throughout the feed. If your baby is unable to sustain a latch for any length of time, if you've got flat or inverted nipples and it's just taking a lot of energy from both of you and you find yourself getting upset, definitely ask for help. And if the help that you're getting immediately isn't helpful, then ask for further help. Knowing about the Australian Breastfeeding Association, I think it's really wise. So you can just do a Google search for the ABA. Via the Australian Breastfeeding Association, you can find a lactation consultant. But they also have, even before that, they have a 1-800 number where you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free, talk to a breastfeeding counsellor. So someone who's had some training, has fed their own babies, not necessarily a midwife or a lactation consultant, but has some understanding of what it's like.
But also just for that immediate feedback.
And peer support. Yeah. That's peer support is incredibly important for your breastfeeding journey success. So asking for help early, and then if things aren't resolving, then asking in a different way of a different person, I think would be wise. Don't give up. Yeah.
We know that people have a lot of opinions on this, but from your training and experience, how long should mums ideally be breastfeeding for?
The World Health Organization says it does not matter where you live on our globe, whether you live here in Townsville or you're in sub-Saharan Africa, it is advisable to breastfeed your baby for at least 2 years. And that's a little bit unusual in our culture, but in some circles, that's completely normal. So the health benefits, the World Health Organization says the health benefits for mother and baby extend beyond that 2 years for both mother and baby. So certainly continue beyond that age if you would like to. We do know that natural term breastfeeding is somewhere between, say, 3.5 and 5 or even 7 years biologically. So what I say to women is you have the complete choice about how long to breastfeed your baby for. Certainly breastfeed exclusively for around 6 months, so nothing other than your own breast milk for your own baby. So no water, no juices, no extra things until your baby's showing signs of readiness for family foods. Then continue to breastfeed while introducing family foods.
Very helpful.
What about the I don't know if you call it a myth or
Mm.
what, but if you become pregnant within that 2-year period with your, say, second or third child, do you still continue to breastfeed? Or I know some health professionals have said to women that it's good time to stop because you're going to be growing another baby and just to set habits and that. What are your thoughts on that?
Many women fall pregnant while breastfeeding. Many women continue to feed that child while gestating their next baby, and then will go on to birth the baby and can continue to tandem feed, so feed both the toddler and the newborn. So it's completely possible and it's completely safe, and you're not obliged to wean your baby, but you're also welcome to if you would like to.
And isn't it amazing what your body can do?
Yep.
Yeah, one of our friends has 6 children, and I don't want to misspeak, but I think she said she's breastfed for the better part of like 8 years, right? So almost continuously as she's had those children.
So by having multiple pregnancies and breastfeeding for longer durations than some of us might be thinking of is actually incredibly protective of us as women, preventing or reducing our risk of reproductive cancer. So your friend has got less risk of getting reproductive cancers compared to a woman who never has a baby, has 1 or 2 babies, bottle feeds.
Just endless benefits, really.
Endless benefits. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for your knowledge and your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you.